What is up everyone, Barricade here, and today I'm bringing you guys episode 8 of Gears of War lore. The first thing I want to say about this gameplay here is, basically, I just felt like doing some Overrun. I realized I haven't actually posted any Overrun, and you might notice that I don't really play as a Locust too much in this, a kind of quick round of the Locust and then a kind of decently long round as the Cog. If you guys want to see more Overrun gameplay, please let me know. I'll definitely love to, do some more Overrun and, show more Locust gameplay as well. But anyways, the things I'm going to talk about in this episode is basically just the history of Raam and some stuff about Karn that you maybe, haven't heard or anything yet. Just stuff I read up on the internet. And also, the other thing is how Gears of War Judgment ignores the basic Gears of War Canon. I'll go more into that later in the video, if you're wondering what canon even means and stuff. But anyways, when it comes to Raam, basically, there isn't really too much info on him. He basically was just overall a prodigy of the Locust. Really strong, unbelievably powerful Locust. Just like, way more stronger than any other Locust drone that's ever came before him or after him. And basically, he was so smart and strong, basically, that it only took him 1 year to go from a drone to a Theron guard. I don't know what the normal average is, but to me that sounds like a big deal, because the Theron guards are the elites, the strongest, the upper class powerful Locust. So for him to go from just a basic, run-of-the-mill drone to Theron in 1 year, that's obviously a huge accomplishment by, Locust standards. He was just overall very, tough, strong leader, very intelligent, and basically his plans for, taking down the Cog was basically, if you didn't really notice it too much in Gears of War 1, basically his plan was to take out the leaders, take out the main people of the Cog. That's why he went after Min so much, because of the fact that Min was the leader of the squad. He's the sergeant, whatever. He knew that. He researched on the Cog. He knew who was the top dogs, who was the sergeants, who were the colonels, etc. And he basically just wanted to take them out, because he knew, like the Queen said when in the scene where he kills Min, take off the head and the body dies. And that's basically what his plan was. He wanted to kill the leaders, so all the basic gears would be screwed. Basically, Prescott and Hoffman were basically the top dogs in the Cog, and if he was able to take them out, I'm pretty sure the Cog would have been pretty screwed, because I know Prescott might have seemed kind of useless or kind of just like a jerk or whatever, but he honestly was very useful to the Cog. He was a very he handled everything. They're lucky that Raam didn't take them out, because they really would have been screwed. And also, one thing I want to talk about real quick about Raam too is, who do you think would win between Raam and Scourge? In my opinion, I think Raam would win, because the reason why I say this, even though in the in the game Gears 2 they say, oh, it made Raam look like a pushover, I don't agree with this, because of the fact that Raam is basically just a beast. He's really strong. He controls the Krill. The Krill is a much bigger threat than anything Scourge can control. Yeah, he used a big ass worm, but in a straight up fight, if Raam is using the Krill and he's attacking Scourge, I don't really think Scourge can really do anything with the giant worm. And I don't even think the worm would be really useful in a fight. And then he controls like the tickers and stuff, but I don't really think that would really do anything to the Krill. And then, not to mention, Raam is more brave, basically. Scourge kind of runs away, even in the game. You see him, he was getting ass kicked by by Marcus and Dom, and he was out of there. Raam stayed to the end. So in my opinion, Raam is better than Scourge. When it comes to Karn, though, it's kind of weird how they just made up this random, new Locust leader. And if you're wondering, if you're thinking that he's the predecessor to Raam, that wouldn't make sense, because Raam is supposed to be like the leader. He's always been there before he did. But the good thing is they made it to where, supposedly, I'm just reading this up on, Gears, the Gears Wiki, Wikipedia, whatever. And basically what they said was he worked alongside of Raam and basically, you know, they came out together and attacked. He was the one that, I guess, he formulated E-Day. He was the one. He was a very, like, he wasn't very strong, but he was more of a tactical locust. Like, he just used plans and, you know, very cunning. And he wasn't really too much of an offensive locust, because I think I heard, and I think in one of the trailers or something, it says that Karn was the most dangerous locust they fought. And honestly, I think that's BS, because Karn wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, in the final fight in Gears of War Judgment, can you honestly say that Karn was that big of a, you know, deal compared to Raam and Scourge? I don't really think so. I don't think he was offensively that dangerous. Maybe he was more dangerous because of the fact that he was more cunning and he had plans and stuff, but I don't really think in an offensive manner, he wasn't. I also read up that apparently he was a Theron guard. I thought he was a Cantus, but he's a Theron guard, which is basically a drone, and the reason why he looked like that is because he was deformed. He was basically like an outcast of, you know, the locusts. You know, he was kind of treated badly because how he looked different. And the reason why he rides that big old monster is because of the fact that I guess he found it and it was also deformed. So he kind of like felt like a little connection towards, you know, both being outcast. And he, you know, turned himself into this really good, powerful locust and turned his, you know, monster beast, whatever, into something even worse. And by the way, actually, I think that thing, it's called the Shibboleth? I don't know. Weird ass name. But anyways, it's actually not, that's not what it is. It's just the name of it. I honestly think it's a cedar. If you've played the end of the game of Judgment, you'll realize that it shoots the things out of its, I think it's its butt or something, shoots those little, you know, the nemesis. So I'm pretty sure that's a cedar. You know, no other locust creature thing has ever been able to do that. So I'm pretty sure he's riding a deformed, like crazy mutated cedar, powerful cedar, which is actually kind of cool because Scourge got a really crazy deformed reaver. I don't know if you knew that, but that was a reaver he was riding. And then Karn got his, you know, the big old cedar. Raam didn't really get nothing like that really. All he had was like the specifically made up reaver that, you know, could use the krill and stuff. But I don't think he really he never had like anything like big old deformed version of a monster that they had. Basically, that's all it is on Karn. You know, there's nothing really else besides the fact that he worked alongside of Raam and he was basically a deformed Theron guard. You know, nothing too much on him. The other thing I really wanted to get into this right away, you know, so I could talk about it more, is basically Gears of War Judgment ignores the basic Gears of War canon. If you're wondering what canon even means, because I know that's kind of a weird term, canon. It's basically what canon is well, in this sense, like in fiction and stuff. If you ever hear anyone say, "Oh, this is not canon" or whatever, basically what canon is, it's true to the story. Basically, like it really happened in the story, in the original version of the story, and if something later contradicts it, it shouldn't be considered canon, because it doesn't make sense how the original version says, you know, like it was this way, and it's something happens that, you know, basically contradicts it entirely. So basically, in other words, canon is basically the most original version, true version of the story, in other words. And basically what I'm trying to say here is Gears of War Judgment completely kind of basically ignores canon, basically the Gears of War canon. And by that is, I said briefly, well, not briefly, I talked about it in the whole video, but I'm going to say this briefly, is that in my last Gears of War lore video, I talked about the Lancer and how it doesn't make sense that it's in Gears of War Judgment, the Chainsaw Lancer, because it wasn't made until a year after E-Day. In the novels, they said that, you know, basically just go watch that video if you want to know more. Basically, it was made 1 year after E-Day. And yet, you see it in Gears of War Judgment 30 days after E-Day. That doesn't make sense. That ignores the original canon, the original version, which was in a novel that said that it was made 1 year later after E-Day, but yet, out of nowhere, it's in Gears of War Judgment. So that was kind of like one thing that honestly kind of bothered me. I don't know why they didn't just make Gears of War Judgment take place 1 year after E-Day. That, you know, that would have been easier, that would have made more sense, it would have fit in with the original canon. What was so special about making it 30 days after E-Day? You know what I mean? They could have just said 1 year after E-Day in the trailer and no one would have really have cared. And it would have made more sense with the whole Lancer thing. Another thing that's actually kind of bothers me a lot too is if, you know, I'm basically talking about the campaign, so if you haven't finished them yet, maybe you shouldn't, you know, listen to this. Okay, but anyways, the one thing that annoyed me in the Gears of War Judgment campaign is, you know, you see the Ragers. You know, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. You know, obviously they probably had locusts that were there before and got wiped out as, you know, time passed on. 14 years later, you know, a lot can happen in 14 years. You know, a locust got wiped out. The you know, the Krill got wiped out in the first Gears, and they weren't in the second and third game. So it makes sense that there could have been other versions of Locust that got wiped out before the, you know, the first game. And that's what supposedly happened with the Ragers. I remember reading up on, you know, on the official books and stuff about Judgment, like the magazines. They said the Ragers were these type of locusts that rush really crazy. They rage, you know, that was their thing. They transformed. But they died out before Gears 1 because of the fact that their tactic was so, you know, very just stupid, basically. They rage out, rush at you, and if people are shooting at them, they'll just keep rushing anyway, so they die. And basically that's what it was. They died out quickly because of the fact that their tactic was terrible, and they didn't last that long in the, you know, Cog versus Locust war. So that's why they weren't in Gears 1, 2, and 3. And that, you know, that made sense. You know, cool. You know, they were there, they died out. But the thing that pissed me off is that they said this before Gears of War Judgment came out. But in the Aftermath campaign, which is during Gears 3, I don't know where there's Ragers running around. I don't know if that happened to you, but while I was playing it, Ragers come out of nowhere, and they're like, oh, where were the Ragers at? I guess they just must have been hiding for 14 years. Ha ha. And it's like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. Where were they at during these whole 14 years? You know, after Judgment, 14, 15 years after Judgment, doesn't make sense. And that's another thing they ignored with, you know, the whole original canon, that they were supposed to not be in the later Gears because they died out. And then out of nowhere, just because they were in Gears of War Judgment, they're in they're in the Aftermath campaign, which takes place during Gears 3. So, what the hell? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It was just kind of a stupid thing that I'm a very when it comes to stories and storytelling, I like to keep things straight. I like to keep the canon, you know, normal. And when stories do that, where they ignore the original canon or they add something that doesn't make sense, it honestly pisses me off. That's just how I am. I guess I'm a nerd, whatever. But that's how I am. And when they did that for the Ragers, I was just like, okay, so where the hell were they during the whole 14 years after Judgment? You know, doesn't make sense. The last thing, one last thing. This, it kind of bothers me, but I guess I could ignore it, whatever. But the thing that was annoying, another thing that was kind of annoying to me too, is in Gears of War Judgment, you see Cantuses running around. You're probably wondering, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with the Cantuses being around in Judgment? Well, if you remember in Gears of War 2, they're in the Hollow, and they're walking around, and Marcus and Dom, they say, what the hell is that? Because they hear the locust making weird, creepy noises, and they're like, what the hell is that? The Cantus comes out, starts screaming, and they're like, what the hell? What the hell is that thing? I think Dom says that. He's like, what the hell is that thing? Or something like that. And then Marcus is like, I don't know, but shut it up. So that basically shows that from the beginning, you know, the E-Day to then, Cantuses were never around. Why would Marcus say, I don't know, but shut it up, if it wasn't, you know, if he's seen them already? And if you're probably saying, oh, well, maybe he never ran into them, maybe just Bear did. Okay, well, how the hell does that make sense? So for the first 14 years that they were fighting the Locusts, yeah, I know Marcus was in prison for 10 years, so that means he fought the Locusts for 4 years. So, okay, so that means for 4 years he never ran into a Cantus while all the Locusts are attacking them? No, that doesn't make sense at all. So for them to ignore that also was just kind of stupid. You know, they probably think, oh no, no one's gonna notice. Well, I did. I'm very story driven with games I like and shows. You know, everything stuff I like. I'm very into how the story is written and how the canon is. And for them to just randomly say, oh, Cantuses are running around, doesn't make sense either. I could kind of ignore that one because it's just like whatever. I understand game mechanics, whatever they want to have the Cantuses running around. I could, understand that. But I don't know, just kind of annoys me. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm not too big of a fan of Gears of War Judgment when it comes to the campaign, because honestly, it just ignores a lot of things that were in the previous Gears. It's like, okay, well, we got all this stuff, that happened, but we're going to completely contradict it in this game, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, if you guys like this video, I like to do more Gears of War I'm actually probably gonna start doing more Gears of War 3 again, because honestly, Judgments just make me mad. I might do some more Gears of War 3 gameplays again. But tell me what you guys think. Should I do more Gears 3, more Judgment, whatever? But anyways, if you guys like this video, definitely please like and subscribe. I'll do more Gears of War videos regardless of what game it is. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.